Okay, so now that we've got our login page and our nav bar working with the rest of our app, there's one more thing that I want to show you. You see, earlier I mentioned that it would be possible to, instead of using this use context and user context thing in each of the components that needs to access the user state, we could actually encapsulate this in its own custom hook to make it so that we could just say equals use user, just like we did before. So what I'm going to do here is show you how that might work, just to help you get a better idea of how things like custom hooks and context fit together when it comes to doing things like user authentication. So what we're going to do is we're just going to create a new hook, and to do that we'll just say new folder, hooks, and inside here we're going to say new file, and we'll call this one the use user hook, just like we did before. And what this is going to do is it's basically just going to combine the use context hook that we've seen before with the user context and basically make that accessible to components without having to know that it's actually context being used behind the scenes. So here's what it'll look like. We're going to say import use context from React and import user context from contexts/user context. Okay, and now that we have that, we're going to define our use user custom hook by saying export const use user equals, and this is just going to be a basic function like React custom hooks always are. And all we're going to do inside here is just say const is loading and user equals use context, user context. Okay, and we're just going to return is loading and user from this custom hook. So this is a super simple custom hook, but what it does is it allows the rest of our components to basically access the values inside our user context without knowing where that's coming from. So essentially, what we can do now is we can replace this use context thing. Right, we're just going to delete that, and instead we're going to import our use user custom hook that we just created from hooks/use user. And then we're going to go down here and we're just going to change this use context thing to use user. Okay, so you can see the power of this, and that is that if we wanted to now, we could actually change this custom hook to be anything that we wanted inside of it, right? If we wanted to get rid of context and replace it with something like recoil or redux, we could actually just replace the logic here, and that wouldn't affect the way that our navbar component uses this. Okay, so you can see that this has allowed us to kind of abstract away the actual mechanics that we're using inside a React app and allow us to just focus on the fact that we're saying we want the user, right? So let's just go through our other components and make these changes now. What we're going to do, here, I'll just search for use context, user context. Okay, and that will bring us to auth route and unauth route. Those are really the only other ones that are using this. So we'll just change this now to use user, which we're going to have to import here. So we'll say import use user from ... hooks/use user. And then we're going to do the same thing in our unauth route. We're just going to say, here, we'll delete this, we'll delete this, we'll delete this, and we're going to say const is loading and user equals use user. Okay, and that's automatically imported for us. And we should see now that our application works exactly the same as it did before, right? We're able to log out, we're able to log back in, and our app responds appropriately to those changes. And again, I just want to reiterate that the power in doing this now is that we can use something other than context now, right? We could change this to recoil if we wanted to, or redux. So anyway, I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.